Welcome to the Revolve Recap Weekly Podcast, where we help the members of Revolve Church deepen their connection to God, His family, and His mission. I'm David McCumber. This is
Bill Lackey
and Breton Palmer.
Whoa, 3 for the price of 2 today.
3 for the price of 2. I mean, I don't get money to make this podcast.
I totally monetized this app on YouTube.
It's monetized.
We've made 38 cents.
Oh, speaking of monetization, I got an email from Amazon yesterday.
Oh, for your royalties for the
they're
King's
like,
study?
we're depositing royalties in your bank account. So over the last 15 years, I made $68.
Really?
Yep.
And that was your yeah.
Yep. I mean, I don't know where the money went because apparently, and I don't know. I guess like when someone deposits like $5, every 6 months into your account, you just don't really pay attention to it too much. But anyway, apparently.
And that was like your senior thesis, master's.
No, I just did that for fun.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
It was really for fun? I thought it was for your MDiv.
Nope. I did it for a local church.
Wow. Huh. So people don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you just fill us in while we're recapping?
I wrote a Bible study for a local church up in Trenton, and then I uploaded it to Amazon, and you can buy it for 99 cents, I think.
We'll put
Kindle ebook called Waiting for a King Like David, right?
It's probably heretical by now,
Oh,
maybe a little bit.
Well, that's a good segue.
It's 99 cents.
That's a good
And it's got 2 reviews. One of them, I think, is my mom.
Yeah, and the other one's your dad. The other one's Gina.
The other one's Heather Stoffel.
All right, so that leads us to our segue of what is going on in this week's episode. Obviously, we have an extra guest. We have Master
Breton Chicken Palmer.
Breton Palmer.
Palmer. We gotta hit the R.
Palmer.
Dr. Palmer is here. And then we're going to be doing a stories from the road with Breton because Breton has been on the road with us.
Yeah.
And then we have a new game that we're going to be playing called Guess the Heretic.
Ooh.
So that should be fun.
Is it which one of us is?
No. Oh. Well, I don't know. I'll have to read Bill's Bible study.
That's true.
And then Bill has a new segment. He didn't even tell us what it is. It's just called, we'll find out.
Yeah, you'll find out.
So we got a new segment. And
it's called Guess Which Elder's Getting Kicked Out of the Church.
Oh.
Is it the one on vacation that didn't text us till last night?
Wow. And Steve's out of town too.
Wow. So 2 elders are out of
But
town.
he's on ministry vacation now.
We don't even know where Dave Walker is.
Yeah, he could be anywhere.
He could be in Las Vegas.
He's probably at one of those heretical churches.
Hope not. I hope not. I like Dave Walker. He's the only nice elder we have.
It's true.
It is true. All right, so let's go into Tales from the... How do I do it, Bill?
Tales from the Road.
Tales from the road.
Whoa.
That was good. That was a good like Halloween echo.
Yeah.
That was good.
If you ever want to give up that state job, you could come on here and be our Foley artist.
Yeah.
It'd be more work.
Breton could be the studio guy who runs the board, and then we like yell stuff at him, and then Jen yells stuff back, and Breton yells stuff back, and Breton could be in charge of making the noises.
Okay. Tales from the Road. What do we got?
All right, I guess we're talking about Tales from the Road, Breton. I just, if you're watching on YouTube, you realize I have the condenser mic, so I feel like I have to hunch over. Unlike these guys, they're just all chilling.
Are these omnidirectional?
So, well, they're all omnidirectional, but mine's not on.
Sure.
Here we go. All right, Tales from the Road. Breton has been on 2 well drilling trips with me in the great nation of Honduras. And we thought we'd share some Honduran stories.
Yeah, so the one I remember is they tell you very early on that the showers in the hotels you stay at have heaters for the water so you can have a warm shower, but they tell you that it's an open outlet and plugged in. And, I went...
In the shower.
There's
an open electrical outlet on the wall of the shower.
Beautifully called a Widowmaker.
Yes.
And so they advise you to make sure you immediately unplug that when you go to take a shower. So I remember
living on the edge.
Yeah, that's true. Or if you really need a warm,
I did
real hot bath. Did you really?
I did. Don't tell me, buddy.
What?
You just admitted it on a podcast.
Nobody watches this.
Except Gina and maybe your children.
That's true. Yeah. Eden does know about.
So you use the hot water because I remember. I mean, it just I don't know.
figured if it's good enough for the Hondurans,
That's true.
it's good enough for me.
Yeah, what's the
when in
mortality
Rome.
rate? Do we have statistics for that?
All things. There's a lot of statistics about Honduras that I didn't know about till I got there.
Yep.
One of which is the kidnap capital of the world.
It was the murder capital of the world as well when we went.
Oh my gosh! Well, fat people are harder to kidnap.
But we went to the other airport though, right? Because there's like two main airports.
There's the
and I think-
murder airport and the missionary
and then
airport.
we went to the missionary one.
Oh,
hopefully.
there's so many Honduran stories I'm remembering now. So I'll tell you something else about going. David went to Honduras as well the first time. And one of the other things that we can tell you about Honduras is that if you go on Honduras, you go to Honduras from Texas, which is how we connected. I think everybody there was on a short-term mission trip, right? Literally, it was like everybody just had team. It was like, their yellow team T-shirt from like First Baptist Church of whatever, Plano.
Smithtown.
Are you building up to the book the woman was reading?
So the lady next to me, she was from a mission team, and I was reading my Bible like a good little pastor, and she was reading 50 Shades of Grey, and I wanted so badly, I wanted to say something, but I didn't have a team T-shirt, so I didn't have any street cred, so I just let it slide.
Yeah.
It could have been like
It was like a Christian version,
like the Ruth version or whatever.
Yeah,
What's
it
that
was-
new one that came out?
Yeah, but that's what it was. It definitely wasn't 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh man. Well,
Here, let me
50 Shades of Boaz.
50 Shades of Boaz. All right, let me tell you guys some other stories. Okay, first of all, I also forgot about. Man, there's so many good Honduras stories now.
well, just
So
give us two more.
Two more. Okay, so when you would go with Living Water drilling this well, they would pick you up at the airport, and then they'd bring you to like this overnight hotel, and you'd stay at that overnight hotel to kind of like get your bearings, because the next morning you'd leave and go out to the villages, which were a couple hours out. And so it was basically one night in an all-inclusive, like a domestic all-inclusive resort where you would get food and get a shower and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so we go and
Yeah, it's a resort, but not as you would. It's not like a Sandals.
yeah, it's more like an offshore motel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like a Sandals or something like that.
It's like that water park in Wildwood, that indoor one, where you're like, oh my gosh, I got an ear infection.
So anyway, I shouldn't be laughing at this. This isn't funny. I'm going to stop laughing. Okay. So anyway, there's always a Living Water team there every Friday, because that's like their routine. They drop them off, they pick up a new team, they drop them off, and every Friday a new team comes in. Well, one Friday, like 6 months after we went, I was looking at the news in Honduras, and I come across this article where apparently at the resort we were at, this dinghy pulled up to the resort on the beach, marched to the pool with assault rifles, killed this guy and his entire family in the pool, and then got back in their dinghy and went home. And all I could think about, besides the fact that that's terrible, is that there was some mission group from Texas lounging in the pool when that thing pulled up.
Oh my word! Well, it was like a political job. It was like the mayor or some
Yeah,
sort
it
of
was the
political
mayor or the
official
governor or something like
something.
that.
That's so it wasn't just a random act of violence.
No,
but
no. It was very targeted.
yeah, so
Calculated.
there's some missionary team that just has this crazy story of that time they were in Honduras.
Yep. All right.
I just remember the Cafe Con Leche.
Ooh, Cafe con Leche.
It was,
Do you have a story to top that?
To top the Cafe con Leche?
No. Is that your last story about
No,
the
I
hotel?
got more stories.
All right.
All right, I got
Got
another
one more.
story. Is we had just finished drilling this well. This was our second trip when Brett and I were together, and once you put in the casing, and then you wind up like putting some bleach down there and all this kind of stuff, and you're supposed to sump pump things out at some point in time, and that's like what you are making sure the well is working before you install the actual hand pump and that kind of stuff. But our generator went, so we had no electricity to run the sump pump, and you need to run the sump pump so you can. I think what you're doing is you're actually like.
Is this a lesson on well drilling, or are we telling a funny story? Because I don't think our listeners
I'm sorry.
care about the sump
context.
You're cycling the water through so you can disinfect the casing. Anyway, so we didn't have electricity. This was a big problem. Dave doesn't care about orphans who have nothing to drink, but
This
it
is
was
a
a big
big
problem.
problem.
And
No
so they
electricity.
said- was it in Russia? And so they said, we got to call the town electrician. So they go to get the town electrician. This guy shows up, and I just want you to picture any of the three of us. It could be any of the three of us except we're all wearing a shirt one size too small, right? So everybody's got a medium on, and this guy comes and he's got like a folding chair, and he's like, "Here I am, electrician." And so what he does is he takes like a piece of 12 gauge wire, and he turns it. He like basically turns it into, connects it to the wire of the generator or the sump pump, and then he puts the other side on a coat hanger that's metal, like from the dry cleaners. And then he's standing on the chair and he's reaching up and he's trying to throw the coat hanger just so it will grab onto the live wire power line so he can get enough juice to fire
It was like Doc from the Back to the Future.
Basically.
And Back to the Future 1.
But then he would like miss and it would fall and everybody would kind of like duck because they're afraid something's going to happen. And
they're going to get electrocuted.
That was the town electrician.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, that was a great Tales from the Road.
Well, thanks, David.
Good job.
I could tell about the story one time when David put his car key through his ear when we were in Honduras because he had an itch.
It was really itchy, and I couldn't get it with my fingers.
Didn't you bust your eardrum?
I burst my eardrum on the flight. I stuck the key in my ear before Honduras.
To prepare.
And then my eardrum burst on the flight.
He was already sick of us, and he's like, I can't handle it!
And I burst my eardrum on the flight, and then we went into that scummy pool at that resort, and it got infected, and it basically just oozed the whole trip. Mm-hmm. It was, yeah.
One guy cut his finger on it, got a paper cut. Anyway,
Tales from the Road.
It's another day.
Another day.
So many
All
memories.
right.
So
well,
many.
we are going to go into another segment called What's Up at Revolve.
David, what is up?
What is up at Revolve? If you didn't notice, we have entered into a time of Christmas, and it is that time to get your Operation Christmas Child boxes. Now, this week I was paying attention. People are getting a little aggressive with the boxes. I see people walking out with 8, 10, 12 boxes. I'm just going to give you a suggestion from experience. Only take what you're going to fill. If you think your family of 4 is going to fill 10 boxes by yourself, if you can do it.
But it's probably like $50 a box after shipping and filling it.
Yeah.
Unless you're buying stuff at the dollar store.
Yeah. So but be wise, be frugal.
I think you can build a box.
You can.
Online.
I was just going to say, so I always take the lazy route. I always say I'm going to go to the store and buy stuff and pack my own box. And then every year it's like down to the wire. And I'm like, I can just do this online on their website. And they give you the categories.
Well,
and you select the gifts.
Honestly, I think they prefer it.
Yeah. Like I don't even have to take,
it's $25 online.
I can be in my PJs and
I'm
just
doing
do
it right
from
now.
my house.
I'm gonna build a box. I'm gonna put some essentials in.
You know what we should do? We should build a box. Fancy. We should build a box.
They've upgraded it
over
the years.
On the podcast.
David, I literally am done.
Yeah.
I just did it.
He just did it.
I got him a harmonica.
This
yo-yo.
For those of you who are not on YouTube and aren't watching, Bill is on his laptop.
If you don't think flashlights and calculators are important, Brent, maybe you don't care about math.
What about socks?
Bill literally
Tales
is
from the Road.
A Revolve recap podcast.
Can you stop? Unbelievable. Well, if you want to suck all the fun out of Christmas and you just want to order your box online, you can do that for your Operation Christmas Child.
Says the guy who I'm sure Melissa's the one who does it for him while he just takes a nap.
Well, I watch. I cheer them on. I'm like, you guys are doing good.
Do you get gift cards for Melissa for Christmas, or do you get her an actual gift?
Well, if we want to, I don't want to get all pious on you, but we actually, we each take $100 and we go out to dinner, and then we give $100 tip to our waitress. So we don't buy one another presents.
I know. And now I feel like a horrible individual.
Yeah. Well, you probably also.
We don't do that. We just pray for people instead of opening gifts.
You're like,
we take the time we would be opening gifts, and we just pray.
Oh my god! So instead of a tip for the waitress, you give her prayers.
No, I'm saying as we do on Sunday Christmas morning.
On Christmas morning,
we just pray.
Eden, no presents, Eden. We're just praying for all the orphans.
Praying for David.
For me.
Anyway, good job, David.
Operation Christmas Child. You guys totally hijacked.
Just get a box, fill it with some stuff, nice stuff.
Pam Heggie was right about you. She said she's been listening to the to the podcast, and she was like, I thought that Bill was much more well behaved, and you were the crazy one. And I was like, Pam, you have no idea. I got to keep you reeled in.
It's true.
Now I got two of you. I feel like I'm babysitting over here.
You shouldn't even know behind the scenes, Billy. There's some stories for behind the scenes.
But a lot of people say that. They are surprised at how hard it is to keep you on track. And they would think that I was the one that would be all going off on a tangent. But
That's why they call me extemporaneous Billy.
what? Does Breton even know what that word means?
Don't worry about it.
Extemporaneous?
I'll get the extemporaneous, meaning spoken or done without preparation.
Well, that's true. Shoot from the
6
hip.
syllables. That's a big word.
All right, so we're going to be moving into our looking up section. We're in 2 Peter. This is why Breton is here today. He preached great sermon today, Breton. You are really you're really doing a good job.
Thanks,
you know, I'm really enjoying your sermons. But, we talked about the kind of, this is my summary, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to say there's these guide rails in reading or in our Christian walk, and we have the Word, we have the Holy Spirit, and we have the church. And we need those three things to kind of keep us on track against going into heresy. Would that be a good summary?
Yeah. Yeah, and then just adding the idea that experience needs the Word. You just can't have all these spiritual highs. You actually need the Scriptures. Like, you always need the Scriptures.
So I thought for a fun game, before we get into really kind of pulling the sermon apart, is we could play a fun game called Guess the Heretic.
Do.
Yeah. So what I got here, and don't look at my computer screen, Bill.
Don't look at mine either.
So I have some quotes here from our favorite heretics, and then you guys can guess, and whoever gets the most points.
Is this like throughout like all of history, or just
No,
like
these
recent?
are modern heretics.
Day
Oh,
MDHs.
Yeah. All right, so this is from a modern day heretics website.
Okay.
To be successful in your walk with God,
Joel Osteen.
commit to honor God with your finances. When you commit to give the Lord the first 10% of your income, God promises he will pour out blessings that you cannot contain. Tithing is the first key to financial prosperity.
It's not Olsen?
It is.
Oh, okay.
As soon as you said success, I was like,
It's that's from the Lakewood Church. It's from their website.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. Here's another one.
It's like name that tune. It's like name that heretic in 3 words.
If you don't think you can have something good, you never will. The barrier is your mind.
Oh, barriers your mind.
I still think it's Osteen.
Bill Johnson.
Nope.
Can I go there?
Osteen again.
Osteen again?
Chapter 1.
Is this
Best
all
life.
going to be him?
This is chapter 1. Best life now. Okay.
That makes sense.
Leviticus is a sacrificial system that was a human invention put in place to deal with the feelings of fear and guilt.
Oh my gosh.
Rob Bell?
I was going to say Rob Bell.
From What is the Bible?
It is Rob Bell.
Rob Bell. Yep. All right. Now this is going to be a tough one. This is kind of
Should
a
I get
deep.
Vance Pants riled up? Do you think he listens? Because I've never seen Rob Bell and Christian in the same room.
Oh, because of the tight pants.
Because the tight pants and the glasses.
All right. This is a deep dive. This is
Okay.
like from earlier in the century.
Tony Campola. No, early in the century. Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm ready.
God created human beings in his literal physical image as little g gods. Therefore, before the fall, humans had the potential to call things into existence by using the faith force.
This sounds like Benny Hinn.
But he said earlier in the century.
Well-
Benny Hinn, yeah. Benny Hinn. No. Joseph Smith.
I don't
What
know.
was he?
E.W. Kenyon? Kenyon? He's the founder of Word of Faith. It's an early
I've heard of the name.
early
Yeah.
Pentecostal
Yeah.
preacher. But yeah, God created human beings in his literal physical image so that humans had the potential to call things into existence by using the faith force. And this is where the name it, claim it thing comes from.
Name it.
Oh, your faith
So,
force,
because
name it.
before the fall, we were gods, because we were in God's image, so we could call things into existence.
Heretics.
So that was this edition of No, You're Heretics. All right, so So I guess my big takeaway from the sermon, and I guess Bill, you can share yours as well, or
I'm not sharing mine.
Okay.
I'm sharing on the ground.
I think my big takeaway is Jesus is enough. Like, you don't have to, like, we have the gospel, the cross, the resurrection, and the hope that is found in that. Why do we have to add all this extra stuff? Like, oh, I feel like I have a word, and all this, even the stuff that we just read, like about tithing and financial prosperity. Like, financial prosperity pales in comparison to the gospel and the risen Christ. Like, I don't know. So it just seems to me, if I see a heretic or I hear a heretic, I'm gonna punch him like Santa Claus.
Like Santa Claus.
But
Saint
no,
Nick,
and
baby.
just really use it as an opportunity to go back to the gospel and be like, why do you need to say a word over me that I'm going to be this famous artist or something like that? It's like, I could die tomorrow, and
Jesus is better.
yep. So that was my big takeaway.
What about you, Brent? What's your big takeaway as you were prepping?
My big takeaway was, and hopefully it came out in the message, was how we keep driving home. Like, you need to abide. You need to be in the scriptures. The Ligonier and Lifeway came out with that State of Theology 2022 survey not too long ago, and you can filter it down to evangelicals, and it's the Bible is God's word. It's 98%. Everyone says yes because they know to say yes, and then you get to stuff like what the Bible actually teaches in regards to, is Jesus the greatest and first created being and stuff like this, and it's for some reason the answers are dwindling. It's every year it's they're getting more off base, and so it's we're a Bible illiterate culture, and it's you need to be saturated. That's, I think, the driving thing is I think of how much time I waste doing fluff stuff when it's I could be reading or just listening and just trying to be better at that. So it's, you can beat yourself up, but it's just try in small steps, be more saturated each day.
Well, and that's why you tune into this podcast every week,
Exactly.
because it's so rich in just theological truths and
Yeah, that's why.
foundation.
Well, now it's all the YouTube nuggets. So for people not watching on YouTube, it's catching all the little
Memes.
My favorite was when you got Bill with the when he made the face. He did the face,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you popped the kid in there real quick.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, when you watch it on YouTube, just so you know, if you are listening to the podcast, we do have a YouTube version, which is a little funnier because I tend to zoom in on Bill's face on his reactions, and they're really funny.
Did you catch my memes?
Which memes? Which one?
Oh, I'm saying. I didn't catch them either, and then I got in trouble.
Yeah, David. Apparently, David doesn't listen to podcasts when he's not in charge of it.
Oh, is that? I didn't see. I listened to that one. I didn't watch that one. When you and
There's
Gina
lot
made a
of memes,
podcast.
A lot of memes.
All right.
Miss them all.
All right, Bill. So you know what? Because we value you so much. Why don't you lead on the ground? Why don't
Well,
you put the sermon on the ground?
I'm gonna put the sermon on the ground, guys. On the ground. Was it subtraction?
Yeah. What
Monday
in our
morning.
connection to God, looking up.
Yeah. So these would be my action steps. Brent did a good job giving action points, but just some real
did.
tangible, kind of.
Yep.
So just some tangible action steps that you could do, although Breton gave a bunch of them in the sermon that were good. I would say up in your relationship with God. Stop basing your theology on your experiences divorced from truth. That the word is more trustworthy than your experience. I think that's a really hard thing. I think for people to understand that last part, the word is more trustworthy than your experience, is really difficult. Because I think we think about things like, let's use it as a scriptural reference. So King Saul goes to the witch in Tekoa and basically calls up Samuel from the dead. Just because that's an experience. But just because you experience it doesn't mean God approves of it, or doesn't mean that it's even necessarily from God. Those kinds of ideas. And so I think sometimes people, they judge their theology based upon their experience. And they'll say things like, well, I know that's true because I've experienced it. But you don't know what you experienced unless the word defines it for you. You might have just experienced something demonic, and you're giving credit to God when it's actually not from God at all. Because the enemy also has power. in
In.
is know the word enough to speak it to your friends, your church friends, rather than just nodding along in agreement with the weird stuff they say. And I think that a lot of
That's a good one.
times we have friends who will say things that we don't agree with, but rather than speaking truth, we just avoid the conversation entirely, or we just kind of go, I know, I get it. Instead of saying, what you're saying really isn't biblical. And I think that it's like we're so quick to call out heresy on YouTube or in a church on the other side of the country, but then we have family and friends who walk in willful disobedience, but we won't call them out on it. And I think that we just need to embrace that. And then out.
Wait, hold on. Can
Sure.
I add to that? So if you feel, because I struggle with that. I know that that's a hard thing to call out. If you struggle with just saying, "Hey, I disagree with that," or "Hey, I don't think that's right," you could just say, "Let's open the Bible and read this passage and see what the Bible has to say about that," because I'm not quite sure. So then it's not your calling it out. You can let the Scripture do it, and hopefully talk through it like that. I think Breton is the one that talks about that. When you have disagreements with somebody theologically, you look at it with Bibles open.
Yeah, I think that's really sola scriptura. Like when I mentioned today, like the essence of that is that it's the final authority. So if we're having a disagreement, why don't we just go to what can decide these things? And even if we still come away from that disagreeing, what does the Scripture say? You do these things with love and compassion and bearing with one another. Like bearing with one another isn't easy, but you're called to do it. Mm-hmm. So, but I know for me, that on the ground is where I struggle, because it's so easy to avoid confrontation, and then it's like nobody wants to be painted the like pious, holier than thou jerk, but at the same time, it's like you're called to do these one another's, and sometimes the one another's are uncomfortable. But
yeah. All right, Billy, you're doing good. You're batting 1,000 so far.
Thanks, David.
That's a baseball reference.
Yeah, I know.
I hear the Phillies
played today.
Yeah, I hear they're doing pretty good. I don't know. I haven't seen a game since the 80s.
I mean, it's getting rained out right now, I think.
Oh, okay.
If they're playing.
Ever since Mike Schmidt, I just stopped watching.
Megan saw that they were greasing up the polls in Philly yesterday because they can clinch to make the World Series today if they play. So they don't want people climbing up the...
All right, looking out.
Looking out.
1,000.
It's a dangerous world out there.
Wild West.
So measure everything against the word. That's really it. I mean, the bottom line is you hear all kinds of stuff and it tickles your ears and you say, I bet this is true. Measure it against the word. The enemy wants to devour and destroy, and he's the father of lies. And he's subtle, and he's better at this than you are. And so be on guard.
And Rob Bell says he's an invention of the Hebrew people while they were in Babylon. The devil is an invention. I read that today too when I was doing my heretic research.
My goodness.
So he's just an invention of Abraham.
Swimzam. What was the crazy one? Swimzam of love. Zuzu?
Well, yeah, but I mean that is a really good example. Like 15 years ago, I used to listen to Rob Bell's podcast because I was just like, oh, he's a Christian guy, and he was like the #1 Christian podcast. And, thank God I had enough, like, intelligence or discernment to be like, I think this is going the wrong way when he started really going off the rails. But, we could easily just be like, he's the #1 Christian podcast, so it must be good, but we really need to be in the Word to be able to pay attention. So that was good, Bill. You did a great job. You know what? I'm going to give you another chance. What's up at Revolve? Do we have any serve staff needs? What's going on? We're doing, I feel like things are filling in.
And how do you feel like the serve teams are going since you've been getting a pulse on them? They're looking pretty good?
I think so. Like, they seem to be, I think they're pretty much all at 4 weeks, right? Rotation.
Yeah.
So,
close.
And as far as the feedback, I think the kids' curriculum, I haven't had anyone being like, I can't stand or hate this new curriculum. So it seems the kids' thing is going really well. So, and I'm pumped because if it's going really well and it's teaching really well, it's also very free, which is helpful for our finances.
Yeah.
Free for me. I thought it was really cool. Prayer time before the service the last 3 weeks. It's been like, there's like 35 people. Like, I think that's something we haven't experienced in a while to be able to pray like that before service. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I agree with those things. Yeah, that we're I mean, it would be ideal to have 5 week rotation, or at least have some people who sign up for like fifth Sunday months. And so even if you don't want to be in a monthly rotation for the little kids, maybe you would say, you know what, I'd hold a baby 4 times a year during fifth Sunday months. That kind of stuff would be helpful, especially for like check-in, for greeters, and for toddler waddlers. Because on fifth Sunday months, typically, not in October, but the next one, we're going to do like prayer services on the fifth Sunday. And so there won't be kids on those weeks, but we still have like toddlers, waddlers, check-in, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's really encouraging because I know the weeks leading up to LCMR, we were kind of nervous if we were going to have enough staff to run all these new classes and all the new check-in and the cleanup, and it seems like it's going really well. I think we're still kind of streamlining the setup and breakdown, but it's been great. We have a lot of hands make light work, but it's just organizing those hands. Still getting that dialed in, but I'm hoping to have it dialed in by February when it's really cold.
Of 2023?
23.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Or 24?
Well, no, because it's like the 20 minutes standing out and being like, how do we load the trailer up? I don't want to be doing that when it's like...
Yeah. Well, it's been hard because we've had different stuff in the
Yeah.
trailer every week.
I'm not critiquing you, Billy.
Oh,
You're doing a great job.
Oh, I'm not taking it personally.
Oh, yeah, sure. You dock my pay or something.
Are you ready for the next section?
Well, can I do a plug for the surf staff?
Sure.
With the Church Center app?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure, so if you are a volunteer at Revolve, please find and download the Church Center app. We're going all in with this being our hub of communication. So get it, turn on your notifications, and then encourage who your surf staff partners are to get it as well. And so that way we have groups in there as well that essentially you can communicate with all of your volunteer teams. It allows you to find substitutes if you're away. So please download the app, turn on notifications. It's very useful because it's an all-in-one. You can see your giving, you can see announcements, things you need to sign up for, book club signups. It's all in the app. Just one app to do it all, one ring to rule them all.
There's even a link to the podcast.
There's a link to the podcast. There's a church directory, YouTube. The YouTube link, I think, for the podcast is on there. Or that's the link you're talking about, right?
Well, no, there's a link to Apple Podcast, to the Sermon Podcast.
There's the first 10 people win $1,000.
Ooh, I was one, right?
That's great.
Just kidding.
That's really great.
But yeah,
Joel.
so it's all there.
Osteen.
So please, yeah, Joel, get your best life now.
No, that is good because we haven't kind of like, we had this app for this app for this website for this. It is nice. It's getting kind of streamlined. So, all right. Well, once again, I feel like we should just call this the Bill Lackey podcast.
Well, you're the one talking. So we have a new segment called What You Chewing On?
What you chewing on? What you chewing on?
And the reason we're doing What You Chewing On
Is that a big overcooked steak? I don't know.
Is because we talk all the time about having a hear, obey, share lifestyle, or maybe if from the original hub, the Shema lifestyle, the idea that you read in the morning so you have something that God is speaking to you through His Spirit that you can share with other people, that you can obey. And so we want to just model what that looks like among friends. And so, guys, tell me, whoever wants to go first, what are you chewing on lately?
What you chewing on?
All right, David, tell us what you're chewing on lately.
So I'm slowly, very, very slowly going through reading the Bible chronologically. And I mean, I'm like, I don't know what week we are actually in the year, probably 40, I think.
I tell you who would know is Dan and Karina, because they told me the other day, I found this fascinating, that in Sweden, they do everything by numbers of weeks. And so they're like, oh, yeah, well, everybody's off on week 13. Like, everything is a number of a week. And so they could tell you right away what number week this is. I thought that was really interesting. So it's not like, well, we're off the third week of November. Instead, they're like, well, we're off week 47 every year. But in the city, they're off week 48. So we take off week 47.
Wow.
And I was like, man, the Swedes.
All right. Well,
Very efficient.
So you're reading the Bible chronologically, you're supposed to read like 5 chapters a day. And I can't keep up with that. So I'll do that for a week and then I'll be reading like 1 chapter a day because I really like to soak and marinate. So where I'm at right now is I just finished up Acts, and I'm in First Chronicles, and the themes that I think are the recent themes that have been going on this week that are really I'm chewing on is this idea of community. And you see Paul and his, community of people that he's serving with. And Bill and I talked about this when we were away was that Wednesday? And I was reading in Chronicles and just was like, I don't understand what this is about. And then we broke it down, and it was really about, was it Joab? What was David's first?
Joab was his original general before
Yeah.
he got kicked out by Benaniah.
And it was like, Joab would say the hard things to David and really call him out on his stuff. And, and then I'm also reading this book that Bill recommended me called Epic. And it's talking about relationship and something. I mean, I read this a week ago, but still, it's what I'm chewing on, right?
What you chewing on? What you chewing on?
Is that the Trinity existed before creation. So before creation, you have this idea of love and relationship. And I'm just thinking, I've been chewing on the importance of the church and what it means to serve together. And I don't think I appreciate that enough. And so it's just something I've been chewing on.
Breton, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What you chewing on? What you chewing on? Hey, David.
And sometimes,
Thanks for sharing
you
that.
read passages and you have these really clear, action steps. But sometimes it's just kind of I just kind of marinate
Sometimes
for
you're
a
just
week.
chewing.
And you're like,
Masticating.
I don't think, is that right?
I'm pretty sure
It sounds
is.
dirty, but it probably is.
I think, isn't that when you hurt yourself?
Nope. Masticating is the technical word for chewing.
What's masochistic is when
That's
self-harm.
when you That's like when you like being hurt.
Yeah, it's like self-harm.
No, not masochism. Masticating.
Chewing on. So I've been chewing on just what it means really to just be in community and service and one another, saying hard things. Am I doing that well with all my relationships? Am I, doing that well within the church? What does that look like?
That's good.
Man, that's tough to follow. What am I chewing on?
What you chewing on? What you chewing on? It sounds like a toy commercial from the 80s, kind of. You know what I mean? Crossfire!
And then a hippo comes in, he's like, chomp, chomp, chomp.
All right.
So I was earlier this year slowly working through the Gospels, but then I switched to, there's a plan by a guy that's law, prophets, and writings. So you do just a small segment from each in the Old Testament. So I think I'm in Isaiah, and I think I just finished Esther or something like that. I think it's been cool because I'm trying to read in a way that's the prophets are tough because it's
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus more on when they have subject breaks, when he's doing a new thought and coming at something from a
And
different
Isaiah
angle.
is probably one of the harder ones.
Gosh, yeah, it's tough. And but the cool thing is trying to read it, looking for those sections, but then remembering the story that's come before Isaiah, because it's he'll allude to an Exodus theme or something, when he'll say when the Lord brought them through the water, and then it's tying that into what he's going to do for his people, bring him out of the exile and ultimately in Christ. And so I've just been chewing on how ridiculously cohesive the whole Bible story is. It is so incredibly rich. It really is a literary masterpiece. And just trying to appreciate that more. But I don't have anything
That's
amazingly
good.
profound.
That is profound. See, that's the beauty about sharing your scripture readings with friends. Is it's really just it's whatever you're chewing on these days, but that means you got to be chewing on something, and that's really how it works. It's someone's thinking about something, and you share it, and someone says, "Man, that's an interesting thought," and you learn from each other, and you get sharpened by each other. So what I've been chewing on is
Hold on.
Oh, I just thought of another.
Go ahead, you first.
Related to that though, and I think I texted you this not too long ago, is that because I was listening to this podcast that's slowly working through the Genesis and Exodus and the books, and I've realized how much my brain isn't trained to think through stories. Because it's like you think of the first 5 books of the Bible, it's like Moses is giving them this information that they're supposed to pull life lessons from. But it's like Genesis is a narrative, like it's a story, but yet these connections he makes in the story between like Abraham's and Joseph's and all these things, it's meant to drive home like these lessons of a life by faith and stuff like that. And I've realized, like, I guess as a Westerner maybe, or American, like we're taught to think in textbooks and not like how we can learn things from story.
Well, and I think you're wired that way more too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you like theology, you like the systematic approach. It is probably more Western, but I think it's also, it might be like a right brain, left brain thing too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I've really been trying to like focus on that, how I can improve, because then that helps with Shema statements. It's like if you can start processing through story, then it allows you to connect these life situations and connect it to a story. If you're like training your brain to think in those connections, so
That's good.
So I think what I want to ask though is, Bill, what you chewing on?
So I've been chewing on. I've been reading Second Chronicles, which I've been enjoying. I'm also reading Second Chronicles in the New Living Translation as a little change of pace, and I've been really struck by how in Chronicles, I keep thinking about what Jesus says when he says the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed, and how he says if you have faith even of a mustard seed. And in Chronicles, continually what you see is that if wicked kings show even a mustard seed of repentance, God just responds with mammoth blessing. And it really is very humbling, because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves trying to earn God's favor, and really all God asks is for you to humble yourself. And so that's been really cool to think about and chew on, this idea of just a mustard seed of repentance, a mustard seed of trust, a mustard seed of faith. And God's response is just blessing galore, which is really cool to see when you have these wicked kings and then they show a little bit of repentance and God turns the direction of history away from calamity, which is interesting.
That was great.
That's what I've been chewing on.
Man, I want to add something to that, but I can't remember this specific verse. But I had read something similar this week, and it talked about, just a little bit of faith. And I think we had talked about this. Like, just a little bit of faith, God adds more faith. I can't remember that.
It was Romans 1, from faith to faith.
Yes. So, which is after Acts. So, that's where I'm at. Romans. That's where I'm in now. I was telling Bill earlier that now I'm kind of nervous about reading through Romans, because I can't read 5 chapters of Romans a day.
No, not a good idea.
So that, Bill, you brought up a really good thing with what you chewing on. These are the questions that we can be asking one another.
It's
what
really
you chewing
simple.
on?
What you chewing on? And I think that if you think about it, this is what we do as friends. If I'm thinking something, I'll just text that to Breton or David and share it. And I think we overcomplicate discipleship. Like, a lot of discipleship is Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. You're talking about it as you get up, as you lie down, as you walk around, as you come in, as you go out. What are you talking about? What you chewing on?
Yeah. So
You just chewing, and then you're expectorating truth.
yep, just like a little, like a
Dang,
bird.
That's another good one.
Expectorating,
Like
is
a
the
bird
technical
gets
term
up.
for spitting.
The early bird gets the worm. They chew it up and they spit it out in their friend's mouth.
Masticating and then expectorating.
Yep.
Wow. This
And
is big
then,
words.
and then it goes through the digestive tract, and then they're
Defecating.
defecating.
Oh man,
So
it's like
all
a
right.
regular health class up in here.
This is true. This is a bonus. So anyone who's listening or watching the podcast this week, go to your friend and say, "What you chewing on?
You have to sing it though.
What you chewing on?"
Don't sing it. Just say, "Hey, what are you chewing on?" Or you could say, "What's God teaching you?" But what you chewing on is a little bit.
What?
Make sure they know you're talking about the Bible, and not about like their lunch.
That's true.
Because if you do it during a meal, then they're just going to give you a very literal.
Yeah,
Wooden
they go,
interpretation.
okay,
All right, so we are moving into our last segment, looking out. And this week, Bill and I were up in New York City, hanging out with old Captain Vance Pants. And if you're familiar, if you guys remember Christian Vance from the old days, last summer. But we went up. Christian Vance invited Bill and I to come up and do a training on DMM, which is disciple making movements. And we did a training similar to the original hub training, which was what we were taught by Kevin, our missionary partner in Southeast Asia. But so we kind of went back to that because the team in New York City is working more in a cross-cultural context, which is what the original hub was designed for, and we've kind of modified it to be working within the American context. So, but I really enjoyed, there was two things that I really enjoyed from that trip. One was seeing Christian, and Christian just looks like Mr. New York City.
Don't even get me started.
He's
I
got
sent him a threatening text.
got a Mets hat.
I know. I was like, if I see you in another video for Revolve in a Mets hat,
Yeah,
we will
he's got his
defund you.
he's got his tight jeans on and his black shirt and his white sneakers, and it's like New York City.
A little jean jacket.
Yep. He's like got on the metro and he's like scanning his little card and he's like, "All right, guys, 2 stops. I'm gonna,
He's got a Bronx accent yet?
Yeah. He's like, hey, yo, it's David and Bill from my friends from New Jersey. Hey. So that was number one.
They call him the Punisher.
And then number 2, what I really enjoyed was really, like, you think about, I forget this sometimes when we do these types of trainings, that we're training these people in these like simple, reproducible, biblical concepts and principles. Like, who knows who those 10 or 15 people in that room are going to use these principles to go and reach and like, and really think that movement could happen, within these UPGs, these unreached people groups within New York City that could go back to Egypt or go back to Iran or go back to Pakistan. Like, that's pretty crazy. Like, just being in the basement in this church in New York City, the potential for what God can do in the midst of, obedience and, his word going forth and not coming back, that it succeeds in its purpose. And so I think that's kind of something that we forget and something that's really exciting to be like, what I shared today, what are going to be the eternal effects of that, of the ripple? So
It's really cool. It's a cool thought, David.
that's all you got?
So what are you chewing on?
Well,
I shared all that, and you're like, oh, that's cool. That's cool, man.
Well, I think
You spent two days in New York City, and you're so, like, cool now. Oh, man, that's cool.
I feel like I talked a lot this podcast. And
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
talked.
want-
Yeah. What do you have to say, Brad?
No, I was going to build on because, that's a great thought because I think I forget the statistic you gave one sermon where it's like what the amount the American church pays per baptism. Like what we, in terms of like, we always have to think attractions and events, and such a simple training that was basically the cost of you guys driving up there and, wherever you stayed for the evening.
Yeah.
And it's like that is,
what's that really expensive place called? Waldorf Astoria?
Yeah. Well, and we packed sandwiches. This
Oh, there
was
you go.
classic.
Oh, this
Bill.
is a good Tales from the Road. This is a classic Bill.
This is a classic Bill story.
Behind the scenes Billy.
So we're
Yeah.
driving up, and I'm thinking, oh man, we're gonna go to some like little shops, and we're gonna have I'm gonna get me Carnegie Deli. Well, food in New York City is super expensive. Like, just a takeout dinner is like $20 a person, on the low end. And so Bill's like, on the way up, we should stop at a grocery store and do some grocery shopping. Well, so we got just like some turkey and cheese, some bread, some, this, that, and some chips and whatnot. And but we didn't pack anything to pack it in. So we literally, there's a dry cleaning bag in the in the bathroom, and Billy cuts it up, and it's like a little trash bag. And we show up.
One of them was a trash bag. The other one was just a plastic sleeve.
Yeah. So we show up, and everyone's like, so we going to go to, hip hop falafel joint? And the other people in the training were like, oh, I'm going to Nom Noms, Thai cuisine. And they're going to all these like hipster New York places. And me and Billy are like pulling our trash bags out of our backpacks
so like Kate May really got hit hard and
with our
inflation stopped.
with our turkey and cheese sandwiches.
I even
So-
reused my bag.
Yeah, I threw mine out by mistake, but so we ended up we had a bag of gummy bears that we bought for the road trip for the road up, and Bill packed my sandwich in an empty gummy bear package.
It smelled like gummy bears.
So if you want to go on a trip with Billy, Be prepared to pack a lunch.
Be prepared.
So this weekend we have a seed weekender trip. We got a handful of folks from Revolve that are going up to do some prayer walking and doing some Shema statements. And what is that?
Sounds like a good Shema opportunity.
What was the E word?
It's ethnography.
Ethnography. So Christian has this new kind of thing that he uses for engaging with unreached people groups called ethnography. And you ask about their foods, their festivals, and
family
and faith.
Friends, and their faith.
So
5 Fs.
They'll be learning about that, and
they call it.
Don't forget your.
They're going to be hitting the streets, and so be remembering to pray for our Seed Weekender trip. People that are going up, and hey, my wife's going up. So
yeah, what's the team again?
So pray for David too, because he'll be at home alone with the boys.
Yeah,
yep.
You going camping or something?
Maybe that's actually a good idea. Maybe we should take the RV and take the dogs and drive somewhere. Go to Lancaster and
Cherry Crest. We just went to Cherry Crest yesterday. It was fun times.
It is fun.
What was your question, Breton?
What? What did I ask?
You see that face? I hope you get that
Breton,
face.
Oh, what was the team?
Who's the team? So
it's
it's Melissa, Dina, Sean, Eileen,
Brett,
not Brett. Brett
Not
didn't make
Brett.
it. No,
Stephanie, right?
Nicole Lindsay.
Nicole Lindsay.
Hold on a second. I feel like I'm missing someone really important. Wasn't there 7? If we missed you, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Scotty couldn't get off from work, so Britt wasn't able to make it. And she asked Bill to watch all 7 of her kids, and he's like, "I don't love Jesus that much."
She didn't ask me, but I would have told her
there might
I'm
be
really
few.
busy that day.
Yeah.
Actually, Gina and I are going. The reason Gina and I can't go is because on the 29th we're driving up to Garwood, New Jersey, to do a 1-day kind of like gospel conversations training with a church. So
Where's Garwood?
Garwood's like it's kind of like near Brunswick, New Brunswick,
Okay.
that general area.
Are you gonna take Gina out to lunch? Or are you gonna make her eat a bag of gummy bears?
I'm gonna
turkey
I'm
sandwich
gonna make
in it.
her pack lunch in a gummy bear bag.
So imagine this: you eat a bag of gummy bears on your way up to New York City, and then Bill packs a sandwich and sticks it in the gummy bear bag.
Let's just pause it. We're running out of time, but first of all, it was the bag of gummy bears as big as my computer.
Yeah.
So let me start this. Imagine this: you eat a bag of gummy bears on your way up to New York City. Let's just stop right there.
It was a big bag.
It was like a 5-pound bag.
It's like 4,000 calories of gummy bears.
It was 3,900 calories. I looked at it.
Really?
And it was 3,900, and I was like, oh, we totally ate this in 2 days.
Oh my word! All right. Well, is that your
And they were
closing
gummy
word?
worms. Weren't they gummy worms?
Gummy worms, but they were the good ones. At the checkout at Wawa.
AL.
Like the sours?
No, like the gourmet ones.
The gourmet ones. They're at the
Gummy
checkout at
worms?
Wawa. But
Albany's. Yep.
All right, Billy. Well,
World's
closing
best.
word. Why don't you land this plane? What do you got for us? Closing.
I think Breton should land it. He's here as a guest. Books Million Breton, or the reason I call him Breton Chicken Palmer is because when I met Breton, he would only eat 2 things, 3 things when you went out to eat. He would eat 4 things.
Oh my gosh!
He would eat chicken
This is a
parm.
proverb. I feel like this is a proverb. 3 things that Breton eat, 4 that he consumes.
He would eat, first of all, the little tidbit here in the Proverbs when it says those things, like 3 things the Lord despises, 4 he hates. The 4th or the final one is always the worst. All right,
That's a freebie.
That's a freebie. But he would eat chicken parm. He would eat a cheeseburger.
Mm-hmm. Bacon cheeseburger.
Yep. He would eat, if he was being healthy, he'd eat a Caesar salad.
Caesar salad.
And then he would eat
'Cause Caesar
barbecue
dressing is
chicken
healthiest.
pizza from Little Italy. I haven't had a barbecue chicken pizza in a long time.
I think I'm actually gonna go get one.
Dude,
It's delicious.
It is amazing.
It's so good. My stomach started growling, and I just was eating those croutons out of the fridge earlier.
What, do you want to go way back in time? Remember the CJ's barbecue cheddar fries?
So why do you call him
Those were
Chicken
the
Palmer?
days.
Because of chicken
'Cause he
parm.
would-
Because we
only
would do
eat chicken parm.
elder dinners at like restaurants that had most of the seafood.
It's like, well,
and
where are
then
we going to
it's
go? Well, somewhere where Brett can get chicken parm.
like, yeah, because he's
Oh,
not going to
okay.
eat fish
Breton Chicken Palmer.
or scallops or crab or lobster.
And his
So
last
that's
name
it?
is Palmer.
So yeah,
Palmer.
I get that
It
part.
fits.
Chicken parm or Brett and Palmer.
So what's the closing word? What's close it up there?
Close it up. Know your word, be saturated in your word, and do it in community so that you can live out to one another's, holding each other accountable, both to the content of the gospel and the character of the gospel.
Keep chewing on that.
Keep chewing on that.
Chew on that. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week.